You like James Bond movies? If you watch Skyfall, maybe you wondered what a weird and spooky stage set they used in some scenes. A concrete island with tumble-down houses and not a single tree or plant around. The gloomiest place on Earth you've ever seen for sure. Can it be real? In fact, it is. Welcome to Hashima. Hashima is an island 9 miles from Nagasaki. It's one of many hundreds of uninhabited islands in Nagasaki prefecture. Unlike others, which are green and covered with forests, Hashima looks like bare rocks with no plants on them. If you look closer, you'll see that the rocks are actually empty high-risers standing on man-made coastal banks. The key to the island's secret is in the coal mining. 16.5 million tons of coal were taken from the ocean's bottom up to the surface near Hashima for its century-long history. But in 1974, the locals left the island forever. For many centuries, people living on Takashima, a big island not far from Hashima, gathered coal which lay close to the surface. They used it to heat their houses, and called Gohita after the man who, as legend has it, accidentally found its fuel qualities. In the 18th and 19th centuries, Takashima Island was part of feudal lands belonging to the Fukuhara family. They saw the profit that coal mining started to bring and took control of all the bargains in their own lands. Islanders served as just a workforce to them, and soon coal mining became the basis of the local economy. In the 1850s, Nagasaki became an international port on the way to China and a way station for foreign commercial cargoes. Great Britain, the USA, and other Western countries were replacing their sailing ships with steamers, and demand for coal was growing. It made the Fukuhara widen the territory of coal mining. They approached a Scotch entrepreneur, Thomas B. Glover, for help. Till that time, the method of coal extraction was very primitive. A miner had to cut pieces of coal from an open surface with a twibill. When coal was exhausted or the open cast got too deep and unsafe, they would just move to another place. Glover brought modern British equipment and drifted a vertical coal mine to the island coal reserves. In 1869, the drifters reached the depth of 150 feet, and modern coal mining began in Japan. Takashima coal had a high quality and soon filled the treasury of Nagasaki with foreign currency. Fukuhara made up their mind to develop reserves on the neighboring islands, and this is how a chain of lifeless rocks called Hashima became a coal island too. At the end of the 19th century, they sold the island to Mitsubishi, which was a shipping enterprise then. The new owner built dwelling houses for workers and made tall fortifications, which had the island look similar to a battleship gliding on the waves. The resemblance was so strong that a local newspaper reporter called it Gunkan-shima, the island of ships. The nickname soon displaced the official name from the spoken word. Hashima produced about 150,000 tons of coal each year, and its population in 1916 was 3,000 people. It was then that Mitsubishi built a concrete residential complex to make up for shortfall of living space. It was the first big concrete building in Japan. In fact, the first big concrete building in America, Ingalls in Cincinnati, was built only 14 years earlier. So Hashima's building was a frontman of the new architectural era in Japan. A 6-story house built at the south of the island gave workers and their families small but private apartments. Each of them consisted of a 106-square-foot room with a tatami. Bathroom, kitchen, and lavatory were in public use. 2 years later, an even bigger residential complex was built on the center of the island. It was the biggest in Japan, had 9 stories from the ocean side and 3 from the rock side, and it was only the beginning. A total of 30 concrete houses were soon built on the island. By 1941, the yearly production of coal in Hashima reached 410,000 tons, and it kept growing. In 1959, the population of Hashima was over 5,200. The total square area of the island is 6.3 ha, and 60% of it are rocky slopes where most of the dwelling houses are built. Any level surface of the island was mainly used for facility buildings. So the density of population on Hashima was 835 people per hectare of the whole island, or 1,400 people per hectare of the residential area. Wow! These figures indicate the highest density of population ever recorded in the world. Even Warabi, the bedroom district of Tokyo and the most densely populated city, has only 141 people per hectare. Between residential houses, there were squeezed a primary school, a secondary school, a playground, a gym, a cinema, bars, restaurants, 25 different stores, and a Buddhist church. There were no motorized means of transportation on the island because it would take less than 10 minutes to walk from one end of the island to the other. Hashima citizens had no umbrellas, as the mazes of corridors and stairs connected all the dwelling houses and served as a transport system. Housing, electricity, and water were free for workers, but all the residents had to take part in public works and cleanup of the territory. As for food, clothes, and other articles of commerce, the community totally depended on the outer world. Fresh water also had to be brought to the island before the tubes laid on the sea bottom connected Hashima with the reservoir on the land in 1957. Any storm that stopped the sailing for more than a day posed a threat to living on Hashima. The most remarkable trait of this place was a total absence of the ground and plants. Hashima was nothing more than coal ash laid around a bare rock. In 1963, as part of a green campaign, Hashima residents brought soil from the mainland and made gardens on the roofs. They started growing vegetables and flowers there, and the island started looking a bit less gloomy. But it wasn't for long. At the end of the 1960s, Japanese economy skyrocketed, and coal was admittedly an ecologically dirty fuel. Oil soon replaced coal as the basis of national energy programs. The government started shutting down coal mines around the country, and Hashima wasn't an exclusion. The coal mining on the island had always been difficult because of the harsh climate. Storms, earthquakes, and tsunamis are common in this place, and they had to keep restoring fortification walls all the time. It took extra money and forces and posed a risk for people living on the island. Waves as high as 30 feet would often fall on Hashima, turning its streets into a rough river. Mitsubishi reduced staff on Hashima, retrained workers, and sent them to other subsidiaries. By 1974, there were about 2,000 people left on the island. And on January 15, 1974, the company officially announced the closure of the mine. In 3 months, all the residents of Hashima left the island forever. For the 84 years of its history, it produced about 16.5 million tons of coal. Hashima now is an abandoned and forgotten island, which looks as a strange lighthouse guarding the entrance to Nagasaki Bay. The modern state of the island is the result of climate influence. Nobody tried to destroy it on purpose, but all the buildings look as if they suffered a military attack or stayed uninhabited much longer. The island state is a warning about the importance of wise forecasting. This is what may happen when society gets too far from nature. The whole world might look like this after the end of urbanization and exploitation of resources. For many years, visits to the island were forbidden and punished with a deportation from Japan. This was a measure against thieves, who would come to Hashima in search of things they could sell. Things from a ghost town were in great demand among rich collectors. The island was rediscovered once again in the 21st century and gained a wild popularity, especially among those who are fond of ruins. It started attracting tourists from the West, and in August 2005, it was officially open for journalist visits. In September 2008, Hashima, or Gunkanjima Island, was included in the list to get the status of UNESCO World Heritage as a monument to a whole period of Japanese history. Nagasaki Prefecture planned to make a kind of a park, museum of the island, renovate the decaying buildings, and open it for tourists. But the project demanded huge resources and wasn't fully put into place. Since April 2009, there are regular steamer cruises to the island and around it from Nagasaki. Tourists can come to Hashima, but access is open only to part of the island, which is specially equipped for visits and considered safe. Any attempts to search the island by oneself and leave the tourist route are dangerous. No wonder that this scenic island was used as a location for shooting movies. In 2009, it was the location for the TV series Life After People, as a living example of what happens to a city left by people 35 years ago. And in 2011, some of the most thrilling and sinister scenes of Skyfall were also filmed here. So, would you like to see with your own eyes what happens to cities uninhabited by people? Let me know down in the comments. Hey, if you learned something new today, then give this video a like and share it with a friend. But hey, don't go uninhabiting somewhere just yet. We have over 2,000 cool videos for you to check out. Just click on this left or right video and enjoy. Stay on the bright side of life.